The morning sun barely touched the windows of Kensington Palace when Officer Daniel Hartley noticed something wrong. He had been stationed at the palace gates for 11 years. He knew the rhythm of royal life. He knew when things felt off. Today, they felt very off. Prince Louis's 6th birthday was supposed to happen in 3 days. The decorations team should have arrived by now. The caterers should have been making their second visit. The party planner should have been rushing through the gates with her clipboard, but the courtyard was silent. Daniel watched as a black car pulled up to the private entrance. A woman in a gray suit stepped out. She carried a folder stamped with the royal seal. She walked quickly, her heels clicking against the stone. Something in her movement made Daniel's chest tighten. He had seen orders being delivered before, but never like this. Never with such secrecy inside the palace. Princess Catherine sat in the sunroom with Prince Louis. The little boy was drawing a birthday cake with purple frosting and golden candles. His tongue stuck out slightly as he concentrated. "Mummy, can we have the bouncy castle shaped like a dragon this year?" Louis asked without looking up. Catherine smiled, but there was worry in her eyes. She had received a phone call that morning. A very strange phone call. The voice had been formal, cold. It belonged to one of Camilla's private secretaries. Due to recent scheduling conflicts and security concerns, the birthday celebration for Prince Louis has been postponed indefinitely. Catherine had asked for clarification. The secretary had simply repeated the statement and hung up. No explanation. No discussion. Just a command. Catherine looked at her son, still happily drawing. How could she tell him? How could she explain that someone had decided his birthday didn't matter? Before you find out what happens next, if you love real emotional stories like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what unfolds. Back at the gate, Daniel checked his watch. His shift was about to end, but something kept him there. Years of service had taught him to trust his instincts. A delivery van approached. Daniel recognized the driver. It was Marcus, who always brought flowers for royal events. "Morning, officer," Marcus said cheerfully. "Got 300 roses for the little prince's party." "You might want to hold those," he said quietly. Marcus frowned. "What do you mean?" "The order was confirmed yesterday." "Wait here a moment." Daniel walked to the security office and pulled up the day's schedule on the computer. His eyes scanned the screen. Nothing. Prince Louis's birthday had been completely erased from the calendar. He clicked through the files. Every reference to the party had been removed. The guest list, the security arrangements, even the parking permits. Someone had wiped it all clean. Daniel's hands trembled slightly as he picked up the phone. He called the head of household staff. No answer. He called the event coordinator. Straight to voicemail. Finally, he called someone he wasn't supposed to call directly. Officer Patricia Quinn. She worked inside the private quarters. "Patricia," he said quietly. "Something's happened. Check the princess's schedule." There was silence on the other end. Then Patricia's voice came back, tight with shock. "It's gone, Daniel. Everything about the birthday is gone?" Daniel looked out the window. He could see Marcus still waiting with the roses. He could see the empty courtyard where children should have been. Running in 3 days, and he made a decision that could cost him his career. He was going to find out who canceled the little boy's birthday, and he was going to stop them. Daniel Hartley had never walked through the palace's main corridor before. Guards like him stayed at the perimeter. They watched from a distance. They followed orders, but not today. He moved quickly past the portraits of kings and queens. Their painted eyes seemed to judge him with every step. His uniform felt heavier than usual. Each breath echoed in the marble hallway. He needed to reach Princess Catherine before anyone stopped him. A voice called out behind him. "Officer Hartley." Daniel kept walking. His heart pounded against his ribs. "Officer Hartley, you are not authorized in this wing." He turned. It was Supervisor Graham, a man who lived by the rule book. His face was red with anger.
"Oh."
"I need to speak with the Princess of Wales," Daniel said firmly. "It's urgent." Graham stepped closer. You will return to your post immediately, or I will have you removed from duty. A child's birthday has been cancelled, Daniel said. His voice didn't shake. Someone needs to know what's happening. Graham's expression changed. Just for a second, something flickered in his eyes. Fear, maybe, or guilt. That decision came from the highest level, Graham said quietly. Do not interfere. The highest level, Daniel repeated. You mean Queen Camilla? Graham said nothing, but his silence was an answer. Daniel moved past him. He heard Graham reaching for his radio, but he didn't stop. He had seconds before security would swarm the corridor. He reached the sunroom door and knocked. Twice, Princess Catherine opened it herself. Her eyes widened with surprise. Officer Hartley. She said, What's wrong? Your Highness, I apologize for the intrusion, Daniel said quickly. But I believe you need to know that someone has actively removed every trace of Prince Louis's birthday celebration from the palace records. Catherine's face went pale. She glanced back into the room where Louis was still drawing. Come in, she said softly. Quickly, Daniel stepped inside. The door closed behind him. For a moment, they both stood in silence. I thought I was imagining things, Catherine said. Her voice was barely a whisper. This morning I was told the party was postponed. But when I tried to ask questions, nobody would answer me. It's not postponed, Your Highness, Daniel said. It's been erased. Someone wants this birthday to disappear. Catherine looked at her son. Louis was adding stick figures to his drawing now. A happy family around a birthday cake? Why would anyone do this? She asked. Before Daniel could answer, footsteps echoed in the corridor. Heavy footsteps. Multiple people. The door opened without a knock. A woman in a navy suit entered. She was tall, stern, with silver hair pulled back tightly. Behind her stood two security officers Daniel didn't recognize. Princess Catherine, the woman said. Her voice was ice. I am Margaret Thornhill, senior advisor to Queen Camilla. I believe you have one of our officers in here. Catherine stepped forward. Officer Hartley was delivering an important message. Officer Hartley was violating protocol, Margaret said. He will be escorted out and likely dismissed from service. For what? Catherine asked. Her voice had steel in it now. For doing his job? Margaret's eyes narrowed. His job is to guard gates, not to involve himself in royal family matters. Royal family matters, Catherine repeated. You mean my son's birthday? The room went silent. Even Louis looked up from his drawing. Sensing the tension, Margaret pulled a folder from under her arm. She placed it on the table. Queen Camilla has made a decision regarding celebrations this month, she said. Due to recent public opinion and budgetary concerns, certain events will be scaled back or cancelled. Prince Louis's birthday party falls into this category. Catherine picked up the folder. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened it. Inside was a single page. Typed official, stamped with the royal seal. It was an order. Clear and direct. All public and private celebrations for Prince Louis's 6th birthday are hereby cancelled. At the bottom, signature. Camilla's signature. Catherine looked at the woman in the navy suit. This can't be legal, she said. It is entirely legal, Margaret replied. Queen Camilla holds authority over palace events and resources. Not over my son, Catherine said. Margaret's expression didn't change. With respect, Your Highness, in matters of palace protocol, she does. Daniel watched Catherine's face. He saw something shift, something harden. Get out, Catherine said quietly. Margaret blinked. Excuse me? Get out of this room, Catherine repeated. Her voice was louder now. And tell Queen Camilla that she does not have the authority to break my son's heart. Margaret smiled. It was a cold, practiced smile. We'll see about that, Your Highness. She turned and left. The security officers followed her. Daniel stood frozen. He had just witnessed a direct confrontation between two members of the royal family. Catherine looked at him. Tears were forming in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Thank you, she said. For caring enough to tell me? Daniel nodded. What will you do? Catherine looked at Louis, still sitting with his crayons. I don't know, she whispered. but I won't let this stand. That evening, the palace felt different. The air was thick with whispers. Staff members moved through the corridors with their heads down. Nobody wanted to be caught in the middle of what was coming. Daniel Hartley sat in the security office waiting. He had been told to stay until further notice. His supervisor wouldn't look at him. The other guards avoided conversation. He knew he was about to lose his job. But he didn't regret what he had done. Across the palace, in her private study, Catherine made a phone call. Her hands were steady now. Her voice was calm. "William," she said when he answered. "We need to talk, now." Prince William had been at an engagement in Scotland. He heard the tone in his wife's voice and immediately knew something was wrong. What happened? He asked. Catherine told him everything. The cancelled party. The official order. The confrontation with Margaret Thornhill. William was silent for a long moment. "I'll be home tonight," he finally said. "Don't do anything until I get there." But Catherine had already decided. She wasn't going to wait. She walked down the corridor to the West Wing, to the rooms where Queen Camilla stayed during her visits to Kensington Palace. The door was guarded by a single officer. He straightened when he saw Catherine approaching. "Your Highness," he said nervously. "Queen Camilla is not accepting visitors at the moment." "She'll accept me," Catherine said. She knocked on the door once, firm. The door opened. Margaret Thornhill stood there, her expression unchanged from earlier. "Princess Catherine," she said, "this is not an appropriate time." "Make it appropriate," Catherine replied. A voice came from inside the room. "Let her in, Margaret." Margaret stepped aside. Catherine entered. The study was elegant and cold. Dark wood, heavy curtains. A large desk where Camilla sat, reviewing papers. Camilla looked up. She set down her pen slowly. "Catherine," she said, "I assume you're here about the birthday?" "You assume correctly," Catherine replied. She didn't sit down. She stood in front of the desk like a soldier reporting for duty. Camilla leaned back in her chair. "I understand you're upset, but you must see the bigger picture." "The bigger picture," Catherine repeated. "Explain it to me," Camilla sighed. "The monarchy is under scrutiny. Every pound we spend is questioned. Every celebration is criticized. We must show restraint. We must demonstrate responsibility." "By canceling a child's birthday party," Catherine said flatly. "By making difficult choices," Camilla corrected. "Louis is young. He won't remember this. But the public will remember that we chose austerity over extravagance." Catherine's jaw tightened. "This isn't about austerity. This is about control." Camilla's eyes went cold. "Careful, Catherine." "No," Catherine said. "I'm done being careful. You've been making decisions about my children without consulting me. You've been overriding William's choices. You've been acting as if this family belongs to you." Camilla stood up slowly. She was several inches shorter than Catherine, but she carried herself with absolute authority. "This family does belong to the crown," she said. "And as queen consort, I have a duty to protect it, even from its own members." "What does that mean?" Catherine demanded. Camilla walked to the window. She looked out at the darkening sky. "It means that popularity can be dangerous," she said quietly. "Your children are beloved. Louis especially. The public adores him. But that adoration can become pressure. It can become expectation. And when those expectations aren't met, the backlash is severe." She turned back to Catherine. "I'm protecting him," Camilla said. "By keeping him out of the spotlight now, I'm ensuring he has a normal childhood, a private life." Catherine felt something crack inside her chest. She understood now. This wasn't about budgets or public opinion. This was about jealousy. "You're afraid," Catherine said softly. "You're afraid that people love them more than they love you." Camilla's face went rigid. "Get out." "That's what this is really about," Catherine continued. Her voice was gentle but firm. "You've spent years trying to earn public affection, and my children receive it naturally. So you want to hide them? To diminish them? To make them smaller so you can feel bigger?" "I said get out," Camilla repeated. Her voice was shaking now. Catherine didn't move. "I won't let you do this to Louis, or to any of my children." Camilla walked back to her desk. She picked up a paper and held it out. This is a formal reprimand for Officer Daniel Hartley. Signed and dated. He will be removed from service effective immediately for insubordination and breach of protocol. Catherine felt her heart sink. He was trying to help. Who's interfering? Camilla said coldly. And so are you. If you continue to challenge this decision, there will be consequences. Not just for a guard, but for your position, your influence, your voice in this family. Catherine took the paper. She looked at Daniel's name typed at the top. You would threaten me? She asked quietly. I'm reminding you of the hierarchy, Camilla replied. You may be popular, Catherine, but you are not in charge. Catherine folded the paper carefully. She placed it in her pocket. We'll see about that, she said. She walked to the door, paused, turned back. My son will have his birthday, Catherine said, with or without your permission. She left the room. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Margaret Thornhill looked at Queen Camilla. Should I alert security? Camilla sat down heavily. Her hands were trembling slightly. No, she said. She won't do anything reckless. But even as she said it, Camilla wasn't sure. She had seen something in Catherine's eyes. Something she hadn't expected. Determination, pure and unshakable, and for the first time in years. Queen Camilla felt uncertain about her control. The next morning, Daniel Hartley arrived at the palace, expecting to clear out his locker. Instead, he found a handwritten note slipped under his door. Security office. 7 a.m. Don't be late. See, he knew that handwriting. It was Princess Catherine's. Daniel arrived at 7 exactly. The office was empty except for Catherine and Officer Patricia Quinn. They stood by the desk with a laptop open between them. Officer Hartley, Catherine said when he entered. Thank you for coming. Daniel stood at attention. Your Highness, I apologize for any trouble I've caused. You haven't caused trouble, Catherine said. You revealed it. And now we're going to fix it. She gestured to the laptop. Patricia has been reviewing security protocols. Specifically, the rules around who can authorize palace events. Patricia nodded. Queen Camilla has authority over official state functions, but private family celebrations fall under a different jurisdiction. Whose jurisdiction? Daniel asked. The parents', Patricia said. According to the royal household guidelines, decisions regarding minor children's private celebrations must be approved by their parents, not by extended family members. Catherine smiled slightly, which means Camilla's order was invalid.
Daniel felt hope rising in his chest.
So the birthday can proceed? Legally, yes, Patricia said. But practically, there's a problem. All the vendors have been canceled. The staff have been reassigned. And Camilla has made it clear that anyone who helps with this party will face consequences. Then we work with people outside the palace, Catherine said. People she can't threaten. Daniel understood immediately. You want to hold the party somewhere else? Not somewhere else, Catherine said. Somewhere Camilla doesn't control. Somewhere the public can see that we're standing up to her decision. Patricia looked nervous. Your Highness, that could cause a major scandal. Good, Catherine said quietly. Let it be a scandal. Let people see what's really happening here. She looked at Daniel. I need your help. Not as a palace guard. As someone who cares about doing what's right, Danielle didn't hesitate. Tell me what you need. Over the next hour, they planned. Catherine had already contacted several private venues. Most had politely declined once they heard the situation. But one had said yes, a community center in Chelsea. Small, simple, and run by a woman named Eleanor Harris, who had spent 40 years helping families. Celebrate important moments. When Catherine had explained the situation, Eleanor had said, every child deserves a birthday party. Royal or not, we'll make it happen. The party would be small. Just close friends and family. No press, no photographers. Just a 6-year-old boy and the people who loved him. But Catherine knew word would spread. And when it did, Camilla would respond. They had to move quickly. By noon, William had returned from Scotland. He found Catherine in their private quarters, making phone calls. Are you sure about this? He asked gently. Catherine looked at him. Louis asked me this morning if he did something wrong. He asked if that's why his birthday was cancelled. William's expression hardened. We do it. That evening, Prince William requested a formal meeting with Queen Camilla. The request couldn't be denied. He was second in line to the throne. They met in the formal drawing room. King Charles was there too, sitting quietly in a chair by the window. He looked tired. Older than his years, Camilla stood by the fireplace. Margaret Thornhill stood beside her like a sentinel. William, Camilla said when he entered, I assume Catherine has been dramatic about the birthday situation. Catherine has been honest, William replied. He didn't sit down. And I'm here to tell you that Louis's party will proceed as originally planned. Not at the palace. But it will happen. Camilla's eyes narrowed. That's unwise. That's my decision, William said. As his father. King Charles cleared his throat. William, perhaps we should discuss this more carefully. There's nothing to discuss, father, William said. His voice was respectful, but firm. Camilla overstepped. She made a decision about my son without consulting me or Catherine. That's not acceptable. Camilla stepped forward. I made a decision in the best interest of the monarchy. I made a decision based on insecurity, William said bluntly, and I won't allow it to continue. The room went silent. King Charles looked between his son and his wife. His face was pained. William, he said quietly, please. Let's find a compromise. The compromise is that Louis gets his birthday, William said. That's not negotiable. Camilla's face flushed red. If you proceed with this, you will undermine my authority. You will send a message that I can be challenged, disrespected. You've already sent that message yourself, William replied, by trying to control something that wasn't yours to control. Margaret Thornhill spoke up. Your Highness, may I remind you that public defiance of Queen Camilla will damage the institution. William turned to her. With respect, Margaret, I don't take advice from advisors. I take it from family. And right now, my family includes a 6-year-old boy who deserves to feel loved on his birthday. He looked back at Camilla. If you want to issue consequences, issue them to me, not to Catherine. Not to a guard who was doing his job, and certainly not to my son. Camilla stood frozen. She had been outmaneuvered. Everyone in the room knew it. King Charles stood up slowly. He walked to William and placed a hand on his shoulder. Do what you think is right, he said quietly. I trust your judgment. It was a small statement, but it carried enormous weight. The king had just sided with his son. Camilla's face went pale. She turned without another word and left the room. Margaret Thornhill followed quickly behind her. William exhaled slowly. He hadn't realized he'd been holding his breath. Thank you, father, he said. Charles nodded. He looked older now, worn down by conflict. Just make sure my grandson has a wonderful birthday, he said softly. That's all that matters. William left the palace and drove straight to the community center. Catherine was already there with Louis, who was running around the empty hall with pure joy. Daddy, Louis called out when he saw William enter. Look, there's a stage. Can we have music? William picked up his son and held him close. We can have whatever you want, buddy. It's your day. Catherine walked over. She and William exchanged a look. No words needed. They had won this battle. But both knew the war was far from over. The morning of Prince Louis's 6th birthday arrived with gray clouds and soft rain. But inside the Chelsea Community Center, everything was bright and warm. Daniel Hartley stood by the entrance, not in his palace uniform, but in simple civilian clothes. He had been officially suspended pending investigation, but Catherine had personally invited him to the party. You started this, she had told him on the phone. You should be here to see it through. Now he watched as children arrived with wrapped presents and excited faces. These weren't children of nobility or high society. They were Louis's real friends from his school. Kids who didn't care about titles or crowns. Eleanor Harris. The community center director bustled around checking decorations. She was 73, with silver hair and hands that never stopped moving. Never thought I'd be hosting a prince's birthday, she said to Daniel with a warm smile. But children are children, aren't they? Royal or not, they all deserve cake and laughter. Inside the main hall, Louis ran between tables covered in balloons and streamers. His siblings, Prince George and Princess Charlotte, chased him playfully. Their laughter echoed off the walls. Catherine stood to the side, watching her children with tears in her eyes. William came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. "You did this," he whispered. "You made this happen." "You did this," she corrected. "All of us." At that moment, Daniel's phone buzzed. It was a text from Patricia Quinn. "Camilla knows. She's sending people. Be ready." Daniel's heart sank. He walked quickly to Catherine and William. "We might have company," he said quietly, showing them the message. William's jaw tightened. "Let them come. This party isn't stopping." 20 minutes later, a black sedan pulled up outside. Margaret Thornhill stepped out, followed by two palace officials Daniel didn't recognize. They entered the building without knocking. Eleanor tried to stop them, but Margaret simply walked past her. "Where is Princess Catherine?" Margaret demanded. "In the middle of her son's birthday party," Eleanor said firmly, "and you weren't invited." Margaret's eyes were cold. "I have an official statement from Queen Camilla that must be delivered immediately." She pushed past Eleanor and entered the main hall. The children stopped playing. The room went quiet. Catherine stepped forward. "Margaret, you need to leave." "I'm here on official business," Margaret said loudly. She pulled out a folder and opened it. "Queen Camilla has issued a formal statement regarding this unauthorized event," she began to read. "It is with regret that Queen Camilla must publicly distance herself from the unauthorized celebration being held for Prince Louis. This event does not have palace approval and does not represent the values of the royal family." Catherine felt anger rising in her chest. But before she could respond, a small voice spoke up. "Why are you being mean?" Everyone turned. Prince Louis stood in the middle of the room, looking up at Margaret with confused eyes. "It's my birthday," Louis continued. His voice was trembling. "Why doesn't Queen Camilla want me to have a birthday?" Margaret's expression faltered. She hadn't expected to face the child directly. "Your Highness, it's not that simple." "It is that simple." Another voice said. King Charles entered the hall. Everyone froze in shock. The king walked slowly through the crowd of stunned children and parents. He moved with quiet dignity until he stood beside his grandson. "My wife and I have had a disagreement," Charles said calmly, "but that disagreement should never have involved a child's birthday. And for that, I apologize." He looked at Margaret. "You will leave now, and you will tell Camilla that I am here. At my grandson's party, where I should have been from the beginning." Margaret's face went white. "Your Majesty, Queen Camilla will be—" "She will be disappointed," Charles interrupted gently. "But she will understand. Eventually." Margaret looked like she wanted to argue. "But you didn't argue with the king?" She turned and left quickly, the palace officials following behind her. The hall remained silent for a long moment. Then Louis tugged on his grandfather's hand. "Grandpa, do you want cake?" he asked hopefully. Charles smiled. It was the first genuine smile Daniel had seen on the king's face in years. "I would love cake," Charles said. The party resumed. But now it carried a different energy. News had already begun to spread outside. Phones were buzzing with messages. Social media was exploding with rumors. The king had defied the queen. The king had chosen his grandson over his wife. It was unprecedented. It was shocking, and it was about to change everything. 2 hours later, as the party wound down and children left with sugar-filled smiles, Catherine found King Charles sitting quietly in a corner. "Thank you," she said softly. Sitting beside him, Charles looked tired, but there was peace in his eyes. "Should have done it sooner," he said. "I've spent too many years trying to keep everyone happy, trying to balance too many interests. But today I realized something." "What?" Catherine asked. "The monarchy doesn't exist for itself," Charles said. "It exists for moments like these. For families, for children who deserve to feel loved on their birthdays." He looked at her. "Camilla has done many things for this institution, but she forgot something essential. We serve the people. All the people, even the smallest ones." Catherine squeezed his hand. What happens now? Charles stood up slowly. Now I go home and have a very difficult conversation. But whatever happens between Camilla and me, you did the right thing. Don't ever doubt that. He walked to the center of the hall, where Louis was showing his friends a toy robot he'd received. Charles knelt down and whispered something in the boy's ear. Louis's face lit up with joy. He hugged his grandfather tightly. Daniel watched from the doorway. He thought about the day this had all started. When he had noticed something was wrong, when he had made the choice to speak up, he had almost lost his job, his reputation, everything he'd worked for. But looking at Louis's happy face, Daniel knew he'd make the same choice again. Some things were more important than careers. Some things were worth fighting for. Eleanor Harris came up beside him. That guard who started all this, she said thoughtfully. He must be quite a man. Daniel smiled slightly. He just did what anyone should do. He stood up for a child. Eleanor looked at him knowingly. Well, whoever he is, I hope he knows he made a difference today. As the sun set outside, the party finally ended. Families left with tired children and full hearts. The community center slowly emptied. But the impact of what had happened would last much longer. By morning, the entire world would know the story. The birthday that almost didn't happen, the guard who spoke up, the mother who fought back, and the king who chose his grandson over power. It was a story about courage, about family, about standing up for what was right, even when it cost everything, and it was far from over. The morning after the party, the palace was in chaos. News outlets around the world were running the same headline: King defies Queen to attend grandson's birthday. Photos had surfaced. The king kneeling beside Louis, the king cutting cake with the children, the king choosing family over protocol. In her private quarters, Queen Camilla sat alone. Margaret Thornhill stood by the window, nervously watching the staff hurry past in the corridor outside. The statements are ready, Margaret said quietly. We can release them within the hour. Explain the situation. Control the narrative. Camilla didn't respond. She stared at the newspaper on her desk. The photo showed Charles laughing with Louis, pure joy on both their faces. She hadn't seen Charles laugh like that in months. Your Majesty, Margaret pressed. No statements, Camilla said finally. Her voice was hollow. No explanations. But the public has made their opinion very clear, Camilla interrupted. She gestured to the stack of messages on her desk. Thousands of them. Emails, letters, social media posts. All saying the same thing. Leave the children alone. Let them be happy. Stop trying to control everything. Camilla stood up slowly. She walked to the window and looked out at the gardens. I thought I was protecting the institution, she said quietly. I thought I was making hard choices that no one else would make. Margaret stepped forward. You were, Your Majesty. History will recognize that. History will recognize that I tried. To cancel a 6-year-old's birthday, Camilla said bitterly, that's what they'll remember. Not my intentions. No. Just my actions. She turned to face Margaret. I've lost this, haven't I? Margaret hesitated, then nodded. Yes, Your Majesty, you have. Across the palace, Catherine sat with William in their private sitting room. Their children were still asleep after the excitement of yesterday. Camilla's office called, William said. She wants to meet today. Just the two of you. Catherine felt her stomach tighten. What do you think she wants? I don't know, William admitted. But you don't have to go if you don't want to. Catherine considered this. Part of her wanted to refuse, to let Camilla sit with her defeat alone. But another part of her, the part that had been raised to always take the high road, knew she had to face this. I'll go, she said, but on neutral ground, not her office, not her territory. He chose the rose garden, open, public, a place where staff could see them but not hear them. Catherine arrived first. She wore a simple blue dress and no jewelry. She didn't want to look intimidating. Just honest Camilla arrived 10 minutes later. She looked older than Catherine remembered, tired. The fight had gone out of her eyes. They sat on a bench beneath an old oak tree. For a long moment, neither spoke. I owe you an apology, Camilla finally said. Her voice was stiff, but sincere. I overstepped. I let my own fears control my judgment. Catherine looked at her. Why did you do it? Really? Camilla was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Because I'm terrified, she admitted. Every day, I wake up terrified that people will never accept me, that I'll always be seen as the villain in someone else's story. When I see how much they love your children, how easily that love comes to them, I feel invisible. Catherine felt something unexpected. Sympathy. You're not invisible, Catherine said gently. But you can't force people to love you by making others smaller. That's not how it works. I know that now, Camilla said. She looked down at her hands. I spent so many years fighting to be here. Fighting for recognition, for respect, and somewhere along the way, I forgot that respect isn't taken. It's earned. She looked at Catherine. Your children earn it by simply being themselves. Honest. Joyful. Real. And I tried to punish them for that. I tried to dim their light so mine would seem brighter. But it doesn't work that way, Catherine said. No, Camilla agreed. It doesn't. They sat in silence again. A gentle breeze moved through the garden, carrying the scent of roses. What happens now? Catherine asked. Now I step back, Camilla said. I stopped trying to control everything. I let Charles lead with his heart instead of my strategy. And I accept that some battles aren't worth fighting. She stood up slowly. Louis will have many more birthdays, and I won't stand in the way of any of them. Catherine stood too. Thank you. Camilla nodded. She started to walk away, then paused. That guard, she said. The one who started all this, I believe. Catherine tensed. Yes, the suspension has been lifted, Camilla said. He'll return to duty with a formal commendation for acting in the best interest of the royal family, even when it wasn't easy. Catherine felt tears prick her eyes. That means a lot. He was braver than most. Camilla said softly. Braver than me. She walked away, leaving Catherine alone in the garden. That afternoon, Daniel Hartley received a phone call from palace administration. He was being reinstated. Not just reinstated, promoted. He would now head the security detail for the Wales family. When he arrived at work the next morning, Catherine was waiting at the gate. Officer Hartley, she said with a warm smile. Welcome back, Your Highness, Daniel said, clearly overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. Say you'll keep looking out for us, Catherine replied. The way you looked out for Louis, always Daniel promised. Life slowly returned to normal, or as normal as life could be in the royal family. Louis's birthday photos circulated for weeks. Bringing joy to millions of people who saw them, the story became something bigger than just one party. It became a symbol. A reminder that even in institutions built on tradition and hierarchy, human connection mattered most. Camilla kept her word. She stepped back from controlling family matters. She and Catherine would never be close. But they found a way to coexist. To respect each other's space, King Charles seemed lighter, happier. He had made a choice that cost him, but in making it, he had gained something more valuable, had shown that even kings could put family first. Months later, on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, Daniel was doing his rounds when he saw Louis playing in the courtyard. The boy was building something with blocks, his tongue sticking out in concentration. Officer Hartley, Louis called out when he saw him. Look, I'm building a castle. Daniel walked over and crouched down. That's a great castle, Your Highness. Louis looked up at him with bright, innocent eyes. Thank you for my birthday party, he said seriously. Mummy told me you helped make it happen. Daniel felt his throat tighten with emotion. It was my honor, sir. What? When I'm king someday, Louis said thoughtfully, I'm going to make sure everyone gets birthday parties. Even grown-ups. Daniel smiled. I think you'll be a wonderful king. Louis went back to his blocks. Daniel stood and continued his rounds. The sun was warm on his face. The palace felt peaceful. He thought about how close they had come to disaster. How one canceled party could have broken a family. How silence could have let injustice stand. But they had spoken up. They had fought. And in doing so, they had changed something fundamental. Not just in the palace, but in themselves. Because courage wasn't about never being afraid. It was about doing what was right, even when fear tried to stop you. It was about standing up for a child's birthday, about defying orders when those orders were wrong. about believing that kindness mattered more than power. Daniel watched Louis stack another block on his castle. The boy was humming to himself, completely at peace. And Daniel knew that this moment, this simple, beautiful moment, was worth everything they had risked. Because some things couldn't be measured in protocols or procedures. Some things could only be measured in a child's smile, in a family's love, in the quiet satisfaction of knowing you did the right thing. The sun moved across the sky. The palace carried on with its routines. But for Daniel Hartley, for the Wales family, and even for Queen Camilla in her own way, nothing would ever be quite the same. They had learned a lesson that day, one that would echo through the years ahead, that the most important thing a crown can protect isn't power or tradition or legacy. It's the simple, sacred right of a child to feel loved on their birthday, and that was worth fighting for, always.